right.
Oh, it's great.
Thank you. Should we call to order? Call to order. Do we do a roll call? I never remember really what we do for our
Kevin Sombart, President. Scott Crush.
Mayor Welch. Yeah, Jerry.
Dale Curtis.
is here.
Katie.
People.
Okay.
And Aaron.
And Aaron.
All right. Okay, so did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from last time?
Yes.
Kevin, do you have any changes?
I don't.
Okay.
No, you don't.
You know, I always look at you.
I know.
I don't.
Okay, so do you have a movement to,
I
Moves to-
moved that the minutes are approved. Second.
okay, thank you guys. Okay, well, Reverend Hayes isn't here yet. He may be yet to come, but that was a great event. And then Kevin, you wanted to say,
Yeah, I got there right at 10 roughly and stayed until the very end, till 2. And it was wonderful. A lot of people showed up. Officer King, Kim King came, and Greg Perks, Captain Perks, and then Lieutenant McCoy. And so I brought washers.
yeah,
And so we started playing washers, and poor Kim is not a very good washer player. And when we until the kids showed up, and then the kids were playing against the police, which was a lot of fun. And when we scooted the washer receptacles in closer, and Officer King was fine then. So she could do it if it was short. But
I didn't even try.
We haven't
I
received a
was
lot of
too-
training in the Marshall's house.
no.
Yeah.
But she was a great trooper, and she, everyone had a good time. Captain Perks handed out his business cards to everyone, and they were mingling, and the fire department showed up, and so they were there for a while,
And Reverend Hayes' wife gave us a tour. She may have given some other tours too.
Right.
Yeah.
and then my daughter, who's now 35 years old, her childcare teacher was there. She's a
Mhm.
member of the Old Community Baptist Church, so it was great seeing her again. But it was a good event. I had a good conversation with several people, and it was a good.
What was the
Good
turnout
engagement.
roughly?
I mean, I was there for about an hour. You probably have a better idea, but there was good turnout while I was there, I would think. There were
Probably
25 people while I was there alone.
overall, probably different, probably 40 to 50 over. A lot of people just, they drove by and they saw the sign and they just stopped and came up and had some hot dogs and played. A lot of kids. The age group that was really missing was the teens
Yeah.
through about 40. Okay, or 35. Okay,
There were
that
some young
demographic.
moms there, I think.
There were some young families
Yeah.
there, but overall,
Yeah.
it was pretty much kids, their
Yeah.
families, and then older
Like
adults.
grandparents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
I felt it was
good.
successful because there were not just people from the church. It wasn't just people from the
No.
church and the police department. There were people stopping by and some people from the Alliance stopped by and
Yeah.
stuff like that too.
Yeah,
so.
Angela was there early, but she did have to leave because she had another event. Mayor Welch was there.
Yeah.
But she had another event and then another one. So it was overall, it was a good event. It was a good event.
It would be nice to do some more things like that.
It would be
I think.
nice
Yeah.
to do more things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
But, and the other thing is, a lot of the members of the church knew Officer King.
Yeah.
So, and they thanked her for, watching over the property and taking care of an issue they had with their dumpster. And, so they knew her, which was really good. So, and I guess it's 3 officers that patrol.
There are 3 CFP officers.
Yeah.
Patrol, but specifically for that area, actually, Kim is not a COP officer, but that's her district. So
right,
she rides a larger area out there.
yeah. And one of the comments from one of the churches said, I wish the police would patrol more. And they were fearful that because of the disparity rates, that not everyone was being stopped and questioned, because according to them, a lot of the troublemakers come in from outside of Webster. They're not Webster people, they're outside when they come in and congregate. So
We've heard that several times, and Mayor and I have been in a couple meetings. And what they ask us to do, we can't do, which is, if we see somebody that doesn't belong, it's to chase them out.
Chase them out of town.
Yeah.
But that part, Ivory Crockett tends to be a little bit of a magnet, I think.
yeah, and that's that's what the folks that were
Yeah.
there that I talked to said, and they really appreciate the fact that there's seems to be a little bit increase of patrols in that area. So they're thankful for that.
They had that porch concert in Ivory Crockett, and I went to that, and there was good interaction between different areas of Webster coming together. And I wonder if we could tie into that in a similar fashion, if we would have had a presence there. It really felt like we should have had, and there's different, there's congregation that had a gospel group and other singing groups around the different porches all around the community. And I think we could maybe coordinate with that.
I think that'll be, I think that was the second of those events.
It is.
And like Dave Buck, I think, was one of the organizers.
He's
He
the
was
primary.
the organizer. So he was at
Yeah, Dave Buck was
the
at the
Old Community Baptist
Right,
Church
right.
event. So I think that's a great idea. To see
So
if
we should
can-
have some presence there formally, because
I wanted to go, but it was my grandson's 4th birthday party. So
And for Make a Difference Day, they had tons of people cleaning up the old Community Baptist property. That stretch, I guess it must be west along the creek. Oh my gosh. They had a whole Boy Scout troop, which means you have a ton of fathers there. And
Right.
it was pretty incredible.
Yeah. Good. Okay, well, that's a good idea, I think, going forward. And also what you said, Kevin, made me think about, the ongoing effort to just be in communication and listening to the community, and how do we get that information back to the board and then the police department and that sort of thing. Okay, should we move on to review and approval of the language that we're going to be submitting? Okay, and then Kevin, you took a lot of extensive notes on that. Do you want to go through what your
I didn't have really many changes. I sent those out to everyone.
right? They were like minor, but
They were minor,
Yeah.
The punctuation, it's just such a long sentence. I think that Scott was trying to kind of break it up a bit.
that's why I put the colon there.
So, that's just semantics, so I think it's fine. My copy 8 was not, crossed off, so it's the 9 members. I think that's fine, because we're adding the West University. They had mentioned adding maybe at Eaton too, but I'd like to keep it at 9. Maybe we could put Webster or Eaton.
Boy, Eaton's down to so few students
Yeah,
now.
so,
Jeez.
It's what?
They're down to so few students.
Oh, yeah.
Someone told me it's 50.
but
Cool. Okay.
and then the training, I'm a big proponent of training on the training for bias and the systemic, racial inequities that are present, and how to, not only learn about them, but how to be more cognizant of them, and just general training in that area. I've always been a proponent of that, but that training can be pretty expensive. And right now, the way it's worded is board members shall complete training focused on the role that systems and institutions play in maintaining racial inequity. It doesn't say, it says they should, or they shall complete the training. But does that mean that they have to pay for that training themselves? I mean, it's hard enough right now keeping board members.
Yeah.
So is that something that is really up to city council to
Yes.
then, so we kind of don't necessarily have to worry about it. The city council will look and say, and that will be funded by,
Well, and that's why I wanted to put it there at the city's expense. I
Yeah.
mean, it could be stricken immediately,
yeah,
but let city council make that decision.
right,
Or at the city's direction and expense, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I worry that, like we're alluding to, we're struggling to keep people on this board right now.
right,
And we don't want it to sound like we have all these extra duties that have to be done
yes,
to make it yet more burdensome to
Yes.
just get engaged.
Right,
That's
I
my
agree with
concern when we give a whole bunch more tasks, and here we are. We're gonna have to talk later about how are we gonna get
Right.
membership up on this board to even meet. Now we're saying we need 9 people,
right,
Right.
right,
and here we are at 3.
right.
Oh, well,
I have,
forward.
I have wonderings about that too. But maybe we'll save that part of the discussion for when we're talking about new
Right.
members, but
Maybe
Um,
at the city's direction and expense.
Excuse me, Eric's on. I'm trying to get him on as a panelist.
okay.
And I hope Eric, Reverend, received the email of this. I think you could see at the beginning, 4.1200, the first biggest change was to get rid of insure
Yeah,
and to use the language we agreed upon,
Right,
what we're creating, and we're reflecting those values. So I think that was a message that was clear, reviewing
as,
the actual video of our meeting.
as we're getting Eric connected, would you mind reading the 4.1200B, that sentence,
Yeah.
how it's gonna read now?
Yes, it's the
Okay.
board's purpose is to advise the Webster Groves Police Department and reflect the values and priorities of the Webster Groves community. And then I put a colon because it's a long
Right.
sentence, to create a community where racial equity, diversity, and inclusion are lived values, with the goal of dismantling historical inequities and policing and building a community that feels safe to everyone.
Yes, I think the colon from, I'm an English major, I think that's correct grammatically, and I think that's good.
okay.
Yeah.
Eric, I'm showing you're on. Can you hear us?
I can hear you well.
All
Hi,
right.
Eric.
Thank you. I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I've got back surgery coming in a little over a week and they wanted me to kind of quarantine. So
Oh, yeah.
Well,
We're
thank
glad
you
you're
for
here.
being present on Zoom.
glad to
We're
be here.
just going over the language, and then Scott wanted to know, did you get the email with the language that we're gonna submit to city council for the ordinance?
I did.
Okay.
Good.
So that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Right.
We were reviewing 4.1200B, which was a source of a lot of discussion.
Okay.
All right, and then we went on to,
Membership didn't change a lot, as you know.
right,
C, the
Oh,
sentence
C,
didn't
yeah.
make any sense, so. I struck strengthen and build upon the positive relationships between. Just that phrase, because now it says the board's purpose shall be accomplished through facilitating collaboration, partnerships, and outreach between the board, the city's
Yeah.
police department, and the people who live, work, and play in the Webster Groves community, and by carrying out the duties assigned to the board by this
Yeah,
article.
that was just a messed edit.
Yeah.
okay. All right. Can I ask a question, going back to the, at the city council's, what did you guys say, direction and expense?
Yes,
Yeah, that gets later or whatnot.
that's qualifications, membership,
Right?
Under membership.
So,
A2.
yes, A2. So my question is, if we say at the city council's direction, could the city council then say, well, we're not gonna make any kind of requirement for
that's why I think putting it at their direction and based upon what is going on this board at that time might give them. Or you think
I
that's too
don't
much?
know. I
wiggle room?
almost think that's too, I kind of, because I also think one of the big earlier challenges that we dealt with as a board is, are our members kind of up to speed
Sure,
about the sort of the general what are the systemic challenges that we're facing, especially if we're not somebody like, you know, a person of color that's faced these things.
right.
So my worry, I get what you're saying, Scott, that it's like, it adds one more thing. And is that one more thing so cumbersome that somebody's not going to want to be a board member?
And expensive.
But if it's not, and my thought would be, I get what you're saying about the expense and that, but I do think that if at all possible, our members should have some kind of basic level of like, we
Sure.
all have this, you know, at least 100 level knowledge
Right.
or something.
Correct.
So I don't know, I feel nervous about,
I'm nervous about this. I will tell you, because we don't require training of any other board or commission. So
yeah,
we don't say to the arts people, you have to spend a day in training, learning about the arts. Even the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is the most powerful commission in this city, we do not require any training of them. And so it's a very unusual thing, and I really wonder if you will have a hard time getting members if they have to undergo
Yep.
training.
I
I
agree.
think that's something to
you
consider.
agree, Eric?
I agree, yes.
Okay. I would just, for the record, I want to say, I do think the nature of our board is different. And there is a more, it seems to me that from what I'm witnessing in the past 2 years, that there's more emotional component that seems to, and more, I don't know, that there's a way that if you're on this page and I'm on this page, that can be really different. And that might not be.
Sometimes that's good. when you
Yeah,
have people
I
on
wonder if
different
that's been
pages.
a good part of the process that we've heard. Wow, that it's important to realize that we're not all
On the same
on the same page. That's been part of the learning process that's developed here for me.
Well, and some of the
So,
materials that
right.
we brought, you brought some materials.
Right.
Cindy Noy brought some materials that we then went out and did almost self-study.
Right, that's true.
And we educate each
And-
other.
Right.
That's true.
So I think putting a formal training as a requirement, it is, I don't think it's gonna work. I mean, it's gonna inhibit a lot of, I mean,
See,
I'm not,
okay, so here's where I'm gonna fall on this.
yeah,
This is the majority. I am just wanting to go on record as saying, I am apprehensive about it. It's
Sure.
not, I'm not crazy about it. So that's it.
So to the point of C, how should that read?
I think you would end it at special training. Board members shall have demonstrated a commitment to racial equity based on their professional, civic, or personal experience, training, special interest, or exhibited facilities. It's an or, it's not an and, so it doesn't have to be any one of those things. And when the city council then interviews those that are interested in serving on the board and file the application, then they're going to look at those items during that evaluation to determine whether or not those individuals have any of those characteristics. And then we end it there and take out the board members shall complete training focused on the role. We take out that sentence entirely.
I see both points.
What,
Yeah, so,
could we say something like, at the discretion or recommendation of city council, board members may complete training?
Yes.
Okay,
Or you could just say training is encouraged.
Mhm.
yeah, okay,
Right.
so the first sentence is the same,
mm-hmm,
and then you're saying training is encouraged.
Training is encouraged.
for all-
Training focused on the role that systems and institutions play in maintaining racial equity is encouraged.
That leaves it open for council or the
Right.
board or anybody to.
Right. Because I know that in your earlier conversations that you're having with community members, this is an item that has been discussed, implicit bias and that kind of training has been discussed. Of whether or not everyone needs to go through that, not just this
Right,
board.
right, the city
Right.
council itself was.
Right. Right.
What I like about it being encouraged too is then we can make it one of our goals anyway. It's in here that we want, or being encouraged. It's not some big thing we must do, but then that could also be a priority item on agendas in the future where we seek that out.
Right.
Mm-hmm,
So this isn't stopping us from saying as a board, us saying we want more training and where can we get it?
right,
And we realize that that's something the community wants us to do,
yes,
or part of the segments do.
yes,
So-
I'm more comfortable with that than taking it out. altogether.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So that's simple enough.
You okay with that, Pastor Hayes?
I feel good with it.
Okay,
Good, Eric.
All right,
Where is the
now
next?
we're looking at 5, new section on communication transparency.
And by the way, I went through, another part I went through is the AID's short list.
Right. that was
And
the
I
bullet.
really went through each item and I really felt that they were all well represented within this document as is. We kept much of that language,
Right,
and any edits of that I felt did not get rid of the goals that they
Right.
were looking for as well. So
right. Okay, so now we're on communication and transparency. And you were looking at, Kevin, maintain a board website with meeting dates and locations, and that's what we're still talking about.
yeah, I don't think we can maintain a board website. I think that what we can do is we can maintain a landing page on the city's website.
Right,
And that's the only change I would make is maintain a landing page on the city's website with meeting dates and locations, board news and updates, board annual reports, board minutes, and email address that. And then we talked about an
Mhm.
email address that would go to the city clerk and then be distributed to the board members. Right, so that it wouldn't go directly to either a board member or to Chief
Chief
Curtis.
Right.
Okay, so there would be an option for someone to communicate to the board through the city clerk, through a dedicated email. And I think that would be something that the city would have to set up, but I think it's very possible. And then I think we need to put more information on our landing page.
Yes,
absolutely.
right,
I mean,
right,
promoting events, for example, part of I think of our engagement, even though it was promoted in the Webster Kirkwood Times and other places, but we can promote it as well. The prescription drug collection
right,
that they were having at that Officer Bell and or Detective
Right.
Bell and Officer Bob were both there collecting the unused prescription drugs.
well, let me ask you this, so in terms of our recommendations to city council, what would you guys think about is there somebody, a role on the board that could be sort of like a communications liaison? So once every couple of weeks, that person is checking in with the person who does the website at City Hall to say, ooh, could you add this to our landing page? Or could you, do you see what I'm saying? So a way to keep up with that.
I wonder, to make it less time consuming for board members, though, if we could just make it an agenda item, we discuss
Right.
here, we want
Okay.
this included, we did this, and we just quickly
So
run through it
post-
here, and then if it could go to who would maintain it, is there somebody at the city that could just post it for us, or?
Sure.
Okay, so that would just be an ongoing agenda item.
That's one of those things that I don't, yeah, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you would have an issue with if one of you were contacting me to get something posted. That's not the same as somebody contacting the board about a concern or whatever. So
Mhm,
Right.
Great,
that's not an issue if you want.
Okay.
You can shoot those to me. Like, generally it's gonna be Jennifer Starkey or sometimes maybe Jennifer Conrad
mhm,
can help with that. But bottom line is I can be the conduit for whatever you need to get posted on the webpage, as long as, again, I'm not quite sure what restrictions we have when it's on the Civic Plus, maybe Dr. Peoples knows, but as long as we're not,
It's pretty open. It's easy enough to post your events.
So-
It's not a big deal.
well, and the other thing we can do is we can have a link to the meeting dates and locations, because that's gonna be on the boards and commissions pages, you know, and in that one section of the city website, which lists all the upcoming, meetings and the minutes and all that. We could actually provide just on our landing page, we could provide a link. So they wouldn't have to create it two places.
Mhm,
It's just a link over to that one.
mhm,
That's already out there,
Right,
both meeting minutes. And then, but specific board news and updates, board annual reports, that kind of stuff. Board minutes, it would be a link. An email address would be, you click on it and you can, then,
right.
you know, it would be an email to the city clerk. So,
So that's more for us than for city council to have to necessarily approve of that particular,
well, they'd have to approve this language,
right,
sure.
this language, yeah, okay.
But I don't think we can't really maintain a board website, but we can maintain a landing page.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Great. That's good.
On there, I can't remember when I looked at our last meeting to watch it. I think I went to YouTube.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah, I think
Yes.
that's,
So maybe you have a link
Sure.
there if there's somebody wants to watch this meeting and any of them, we'll link them right there. Is that a good idea?
I like it.
and they should be able to do that now. I don't know how user friendly it is, but it's basically you can get to that if someone wants to watch a meeting. They're all posted on there where you click on the link.
Did it have the link? I don't remember if I had to go into YouTube and find it.
I'm pretty sure they all have a link.
for
Alright.
our meeting or for the city council?
Our meeting,
Our meeting,
For any meeting that's recorded on Zoom.
right?
there was a link. I
Yeah,
did it the
there, it's
hard
also
way.
in the
Alright.
minutes, but that won't be put in there until after that version of the minutes is approved.
Right,
So-
right.
But
But that's
it's
okay.
all there, it's pretty readily available.
Okay, as long as people can see it if they want to review our
Yeah.
meeting.
Right, I think that's good. All right. Is that our last?
Well, there was that listening session idea.
And we can do that now. I mean,
Right,
it's just. it's
We
just in
avoided
there.
sunshine issues that
Right.
came up with that.
right, yeah. Okay,
So we just-
so,
we set, we discussed that during an agenda item and we just set a date and which of the
Small group.
small group
Right.
will monitor it. which
Yes.
are all of us right now.
Right now, we're on a small group.
I know.
You're small, you're a small group.
So, all right, so it looks like then, what it looks like to me is that we just need to make, or Scott has to make those last edits.
Well, I mean, can we just take it from what we just said and
Yeah.
put it together? Do you want me to,
I mean, I have a photocopy
of that, and you got
I'm-
the one sentence correction that we just made?
Right, but somebody will need to like send me the actual document so that all the rest of, like, if you want something, if you want me to make changes to this, that will equal something that can actually be presented, then
Yes,
all, everything that's crossed out and whatever, I'll need
Is
the
gone.
original document to get rid of all of that and get this
which you
into,
probably
mean,
have, the original.
no, I
ordinance. Oh,
I've never received any.
She wasn't copied.
no, but there, oh, this,
I have PDFs.
you have
but
the
I-
original
But
ordinance,
not
so
something
this.
that I can revise.
Yeah, she needs the one that she can accept or reject changes. So,
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
and then if she's accepting the
Okay.
changes, then
We
the
can-
red
I can
lines
get
go
that.
away.
I can
Right.
get that out.
So,
Okay, and then you'll just accept it.
yep. And I think
And
we,
you don't have to accept it again, as long as it's as we just said, right?
I
The
feel
rest of the
okay with
board
that.
and
Eric, do you
Reverend?
feel okay with that?
I'm right along with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is so easy.
He's
I
so
wish I could- wish I could- I wish I could be
Oh,
present.
okay.
so
Okay.
I would like to present a motion to
Good man.
To accept it.
to accept the recommended changes by the Police Community Engagement Board as discussed this evening. And present that document to the city council for their review and consideration.
Second.
All in favor?
That's it. No.
Any discussion?
Is there any discussion? No. Okay, all in favor?
I,
Aye. Okay,
All opposed?
So.
all opposed?
say,
all
so
right,
approved.
All right, thank you, Robert, for Robert's rules followers, which I apparently am not. Okay, so we're moving on to the discussion of, Chief Curtis forwarded me, just the link to the city council meeting that had the Douglas Hall discussion, and so, kind of like, is this something that we need to think about or address as a board? Did you guys get a chance to look? Did anybody get a chance to look at any of that meeting?
I began looking at it. I need to study it more. It seems everything, there's so many sides to this, and that's why I think it was a vote of 4-4.
Yeah, it was
And
about a
I'm trying to
4-hour
wrap my
meeting.
head around all the different aspects of what this means.
I guess that I took just some notes for myself that were, very like bare bones, but about like, well, what's the implication for the
Right.
police community engagement board? And, there's a lot of implication for the way, for the way the police are gonna be, their resources are gonna be pulled thinner, and then, we're gonna have a population increase and parking and traffic, so there's gonna be more traffic. But we just don't know. We don't know how it will impact our work as a sort of a liaison with the community and our police, So I did think, do we want to, are there recommendations in terms of like what we would like the developers to value or know about our work, or any kind of input that we want to, or conversation we want to start with them?
Right, because I saw some of the debate was about how tall the project was
Right.
gonna be, and I don't know that that's really part
Right,
of our board.
exactly.
Or the TIF district discussion, I didn't
Right.
think was necessarily the charge of our board
Right,
or involved.
for sure. That my thought, and then if anybody has any other thoughts, I would, I think it would be great to talk about, or we can continue the discussion. We may think this is all new to all of us, but my thought about it was, yes, there is an implication to the relationship between the community and the police, and we can guess what some of those things might be, but really it's such an early stage. It's like, is it more about letting this group know what our priorities are
Right.
and the work that we do? I don't know.
And how was blighted area? It's considered a blighted area, is that right?
Is it considered a blighted
To make it a
area?
TIF area?
You have to do a blighting study
Yeah.
in order to do consideration of a TIF.
Correct.
And so we hired the development,
Development strategy.
development strategies, I was gonna say strategic development, development strategies to do a blighting study, and they did come up with a blighting study. You can always find something to blight a property. I mean, I don't think there's ever a case when somebody wants to do a TIF that you can't find blighting. And you can go back, there's a TIF commission and report in, and there are pictures of, you know, pavement that's cracked or walls that are not uneven and stuff like that, so.
Well, and we're talking about racial inequity and other things, is there bias there that we might not be aware
Boy,
of?
you know, I could just say to you that you're wading into something.
Yeah,
You're
you
wading
don't wanna
into
get in-
that
yeah.
Because, you know, there are people who feel that this is a project that'll bring the community together. There are other people who feel that this is a project that's going to separate North Webster from the rest of the community. And I mean, we could spend the next 3 days talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And I think it provides potentially, if it moves forward and if it is completed, it provides another space or location for us to have an engagement activity, an engagement, because there's going to be, you know, spaces in this new development where there's going to be places for community people to gather. You know, so it could be, you know, an opportunity or another location where we could, you know, we could actually engage with us, with the police and with the community. So, and I know that, you know, there's some, again, you know, part of it is, yeah, there's probably gonna have to be an increased number of police officers, right?
I would think so,
I would-
right?
I don't know.
There really isn't any way to project that
Yeah,
definitively, but my educated opinion with our advice and experience is probably not.
probably not.
Really?
Yes.
And what's the population increase?
At
I
a
think
thousand.
it was completed as 1,500.
1,500.
Yeah, over a course of several years.
Okay.
That wouldn't be
Yeah.
immediate.
Okay.
But I know there's also talk where some folks would like to see the police walking more in the community.
Right?
But because of the fact that we're spread thin, okay, to begin with, how feasible is that? You know, because then they'll be away from their car and they can't then respond to other emergencies.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the issues, but, you know, that's something that I think that we can discuss moving forward, whether this project goes forward or not, is how can, there's, instead of the police in the car driving by, they're actually out mingling with the folks.
Right.
I think that happens a lot more than people are aware of. Especially in the COP area, but also in the business districts, our traffic, and you know, we have parking control. And when we're fully staffed, we have a couple officers, and they are on foot. They are what they contact and interact with the business community. Our 3 COP officers are in North Webster and around Ivy Crocker Park. They are frequently out on foot. We log all of those activities so we can actually track them. I can tell you, I mean, the last time that I checked, and we were trying to look at it, we're probably close to 1,000 foot patrols just in Northwest.
So, I mean, as people are down at the many restaurants in Old Orchard and in Old Webster.
That's one place we can probably do a little bit of job. I'm not sure. If that's a critical element, and that, again, if we started doing that where we did it, where it was a regular thing, we either need to be fully staffed or have an extra authorized strength. Because
Exactly.
That will require a little bit more.
Yep.
But
Right.
again, the development in itself, I don't think would cause us to ask for another increase in our authorized strength. I'll give you an example. For instance, Shrewsbury, when they built the Walmart, they're
Yeah.
projecting they were gonna need 3 or 4 more officers. They were able, they added 2, and that's really actually more than what they need.
I ask a question?
Sure.
Well, I usually watch you guys on Zoom, so being here tonight, I didn't mean to join the conversation, but it's really interesting, and we haven't had a chance to talk about it. But Chief, would something like a substation be a good thing to do in that area, even if you don't need more officers?
We had actually, excuse me, we had a substation at Douglas Manor,
That's right.
and then we also had one in Yorkshire. And we probably did both for maybe 2 or 3 years. And what happens is the geographical area, it's nice in a way, but unfortunately, what would happen is the officer right in there, whatever, would congregate into the report writing area and actually would spend too much time in the substation as opposed to being out on the street. So we really eliminated that. It didn't really make it that much closer to the community. We have, it's not a tiny geographical area, but it's small enough that the officers should and can be out in that area that they're riding. I don't know if substations would be that helpful, but I said we tried it and it didn't really increase our footprint in either one of the areas that much.
Do you have any comments, Pastor Hayes?
I was gonna ask Chief Curtis, do we have more of a bicycle patrol?
We do not. We had, that's another thing where we had a component of a bicycle patrol. We had 3 or 4 officers that were trained on bicycles. But again, the problem being that it's a resource that takes away from calls for service. There's only 4 officers doing it. We're able to maybe get 1 officer at most out on the shift on the bicycle. And it certainly helps. I mean, again, it's good. It's always good to interact with the community, be able to be out there and be more present. But it really did broaden our presence where we felt like it was really creating a positive, enough of a positive benefit to continue doing it. So we have a couple bicycles downstairs in our Sally port, but that's one of those things we discontinued as well. We did have a small bike unit, but it just wasn't, it sapped our resources too much and didn't provide enough of a benefit to continue doing it. At least that's what we felt. Again, we're open both for the substation and bicycle areas to maybe try that again. And maybe it's been, some time. It's been probably 10 years since we've had the substation, and maybe about the same amount or a little bit shorter on the bicycle patrols. So maybe time to try some of those things again, see if it produces a little bit more of a benefit. But we really are, we leave the bang for the buck. Our ratio of officers per population is one of the lowest in the region, if not the lowest for this immediate region. If you look at the ECDC agencies, we have by far the lowest ratio of officers per population. And it's not a matter of public safety. It doesn't really, in my opinion, decrease public safety to any great degree. But it does allow us to provide adequate amount of safety, a good presence, but at a good price to the taxpayer.
Okay.
That's a really good point, though, because the density of the population is going to increase if this does go through too.
So what do you all think? Is it sort of like, let's wait and see a little bit what does get approved before we make, or doesn't get approved before we put our resources, our resources are strained right now as a board. So adding one more thing when we don't even know what it's going to be probably isn't the best use of our resources.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So for right now, until something changes, we'll just kind of wait and see
And we'll stay aware of it.
and say, okay, that sounds good. All right, this is an easy one. Next one is scheduling our next meeting. So it turns out that our next meeting would be the week of Thanksgiving. So maybe we just want to look at the calendar if we want to do it the next week after, or skip our meeting in November and move to December. I wonder what.
We should probably have one meeting for that whole holiday zone.
Normally,
So-
we do not have a meeting in December.
Okay, so maybe the options, I'm gonna pull up my calendar. We don't know what else is on the schedule for the city, but a
Potentially moving it to the 30th. And then not have
and not
And
have
not
a
a
And
December.
then not have a
Does the
December meeting.
30th work for the calendar for the city otherwise?
So Mayor, I think that's the date you all selected for your strategic planning.
Oh, okay. Well,
There's always.
I mean, I'm gonna be in town on the 23rd. I don't know if anyone else is.
There was
I'm
a-
not leaving until the 24th.
Chief, do you remember? Why was there
I'm
some?
fine with the 23rd.
Okay,
Again, it's up
me
it's
too.
up to you all. The only reason I sent that to you is because the city clerk sent out and said, check the boards and commissions.
Okay,
Yours is in the week Thanksgiving, they might want to consider change, but
oh, got it.
if you
Okay,
all-
I'm in town the
yeah,
23rd
if you all
too.
are fine with that, there's no problem.
Why don't we just keep that as a?
Pastor Hayes, are you okay with keeping it on the 23rd?
As long as I can do Zoom, according, and Scott can probably agree with this. I was told that I will be out for at least 7 weeks.
Okay, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
So I can do Zoom.
Okay,
Okay.
there we bring it in.
all right. Well, we'll keep it as is
As is.
November 23rd. Okay,
Expecting no meeting in December.
and then no
Right,
meeting in
and then no
December.
meeting in December.
Okay, all right.
And that
That,
way we keep it on the 4th Tuesday.
Yeah.
On our regular.
right. And I guess, I mean, I didn't look at January, but maybe it wouldn't hurt to just. So that 4th
The
would be the
25th.
25th of
Mhm.
January.
So that's
Okay.
well after the holidays,
Yeah.
so.
All right. That's good. All right, so now on to something that does bear some discussion. New board members, maybe new board share it. Hopefully at some point. So Reverend Hayes, did you get the email that I sent that Angela resigned?
Yes, I did.
So it's kind of disheartening.
I was depressed.
I know,
I thought she was such a good board.
I know.
I
And
mean, both, we lost,
Both of them.
both of, had Cindy and Angela were just.
well, what is your all's input on what, it feels like we're a little bit at a crossroads or there's something happening. And so what,
I'm
What do you want?
curious what made this overwhelming for Angela. Almost like an exit interview style. I'm just curious what to really, is there a way we could just ask that in a comfortable way of her, what made this burdensome?
I'm
This
gonna have
reminds-
coffee with her in another week or two. She's sick now, so
Okay.
she really is sick this week, so I'll see if I can figure out. She'll tell me why she did this.
I know she's had difficulty making the meetings.
Yeah, she's pretty.
She's got a lot of irons in the fire. I mean, she's got a lot of stuff going on. So I think this is just something that,
Is it that we have too many meetings or is it?
well, I
don't
mean,
feel
we're-
so.
the language here is we're supposed to be 9 times, the existing language is we were supposed to meet at least once a quarter. So, but we're meeting monthly, but we still have a lot of work to do. I mean, the reason we were meeting monthly, at the beginning is because we had a lot of learning to do. We had, a lot of discussions. There were a lot of things going on at that particular point in time that affected not only the police, but also the community and
I mean,
so.
I said this to Angela on an email reply, and I wrote in, the mayor and chief first were on that email too. I mean, I am concerned, the 2 people that have resigned in the past 6 months are both women of color, and so I don't want to ignore that. I don't want that to be an elephant in the room, like,
Right.
oh, we're gonna ignore that. It could be simple, something simple like, oh, it's just really busy and life is really busy, or it could be there's something particularly burdensome about that work, and the work that we're doing, or the pace at which we're doing it, or the way voices are heard or not heard. I hope that's not true. I hope that the way we're doing this work is comfortable and safe for everybody. But but I don't want to ignore that too as a
No,
possibility.
that's part of why my curiosity is there more that she
Right.
didn't feel comfortable sharing? Especially because I know Cynthia's was partly out of frustration, I think.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. So if we are not actively recruiting people of color to be on this board, then we're not creating, or we're not making the space safe or energizing, I think.
Correct, because
Yeah.
and it was clear when they both were here that they provided great
Right,
energy and discussion.
right.
Yes.
So we really need
right.
board
Right.
members.
Right.
From.
Are you
from
getting
walks
any
of life.
applications?
I talked to Katie, there's one applicant that's going to be interviewed this coming
Yeah,
Tuesday.
she said we had two, I think.
Then she got another one after. talked
I
to her.
didn't know
She said
either
there's-
of them. I mean, the names
The
were.
one I
unfamiliar.
believe was the gentleman that was here with Farrell.
Okay.
Okay.
Centron Felder, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was it.
Okay,
The other one I'm not aware of, but she said that she had a couple other potentials that maybe at the meeting next week or maybe the following week. So it looks like there's two next time, there's the third that's a potential. I don't know the other two. But
Can we get help from, how are we recruiting? Are we getting help from the university, Webster University? Are we getting help from the Alliance? Where are we gonna look for help?
I think we should make a request at the North Webster Neighborhood Coalition next meeting. I think so. That's a very active group. There are good folks on that group. Both Angela and Angela's a very, let's say, a very productive member of that group. There are a couple of other folks.
while we were on that topic, Reverend Hayes,
Yes, sir.
Reverend Hayes.
you are up for reappointment. We're very hopeful that you've made a decision that you would like to continue on the board. It certainly, I think, would be a benefit to us if you would do that.
I'm holding on. I know my tenure actually was up. And then Cindy left and then Angela. And so I don't intend on leaving at least until, we have more on the board.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
thanks.
Appreciate
Reverend
that.
Hayes.
Yeah. And can I even ask, I don't know, make a suggestion or ask, but in recruiting, would it be possible if we sent a letter to the different churches, just, stating that, we are looking, if they have anyone that's interested, Old Community, First Baptist, Nazarene, Gospel Temple, if we send a letter to maybe one to each of those churches asking if they have anyone interested, that, leave a contact number that they could call.
I like that idea.
That's a great idea.
Do you have connections with those various churches?
Well, I do with.
Not while you're having surgery, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know some of the pastors, First Baptist, of course, I know Reverend Bonner, and Nazarene, I know Coriolis very well. Gospel Temple, they really don't have a pastor right now, but they have someone who's serving as interim. And Parks Chapel, I just met that gentleman at Northwestern Coalition.
I think Emerson is a member of
First Baptist,
First Baptist.
correct.
So, I mean, I'm willing to draft a letter and then maybe could I send it to you, Reverend Hayes, and you look at it and see if it looks good, and maybe I'll send it to the group and get input. Okay,
That's fine.
okay.
Would be great.
And if need be, Kate, I can send you at least the names of the few churches, just in case you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
After the letter's drafted, or if you want them earlier, that's fine. I can do that
All right. Well, when's your surgery?
on the 3rd.
Okay. I don't think, I'm gonna think, when would I draft that letter? I'm gonna have a week to draft the letter, so we'll just talk after you're in recovery.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And any other thoughts or input on this?
No, but in 2 years, I just noticed something.
Hmm.
You write with the wrong hand.
I do, right? Yeah. It's the right hand to make.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the letter to the churches would be great. And I think the same letter could go to the North Webster
At the,
Coalition.
you know, a lot of us go to their meetings, and the last meeting, I think there must have been 50 people there. from Northwestern.
Wow.
I mean, it was packed, and just to ask them if you can get on the agenda and make an announcement that we're looking for people.
Maybe one of us could go.
Yeah,
Sure.
you do that, take some applications with you and.
Mhm.
Okay.
And what about Webster University? Any faculty or anybody there? Would you be interested? Or- Right now, I just think we have to get a diversity of people here and
Mhm.
more people on it.
Well, and obviously
number
feel
one.
free to, on your own, out there talking to whoever
Yeah.
to make it known as well.
There was
I
a
did-
business owner that someone had in mind. I can't remember who it was or when that discussion happened. But I just seem to remember
I
somebody
reached out
said.
to Holland Saltzman, who owns the Novel Neighbor. She couldn't do it. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the idea of an exit interview, it might be interesting just to have that as something that we just have, this is part of your process of being on the board, so that if you leave the board, maybe, and it's not because you moved or whatever, like maybe we have some questions that we just always will get feedback. Do you see what I mean? As part of so rather than it being something that's, I don't know, seems like individualized, like I need to have this private conversation with this person, that it could be something like, I know that if I'm gonna step down, I'm gonna talk to somebody about my experience on the board, give feedback prior to my leaving. Do you see what I mean? Or in conjunction with my leaving?
Yes, and I don't even think I've totally processed Cynthia's leaving
Right,
and understand all the factors there.
right.
So
So,
I'd be curious even to go, see it now that she's had a few more months, if she'd be willing to tell us more.
yeah.
So that we can do better.
Well, if you have specific questions that you think would be, or any of us have specific questions that I think that would be important to ask, I will reach out to both of them and see if they're willing to, give a little feedback. I mean, otherwise I can come up with questions on my own, but if there are things that you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I wonder if Katie would ask that, or I wonder how that,
I can send you something.
Okay.
Some things. Yeah.
All right, well,
Okay, what if you ask, just what was their opinion about the board? Maybe that will open that door or that
Yeah.
window.
What worked, what didn't work. with the membership on the board.
okay. All right, well, we'll keep working on that. I had he might know, do you know, Jan Erdman?
Yes.
She used to say onward always when I worked with her, onward. So that was how she encouraged me. So do we have public comments or questions that have come through?
I've been trying to check, I haven't seen anybody that raised it.
I have something I wanted to bring up. At the Missouri Municipal League Conference, they give away these awards, innovation awards. And one of them, the one, was the police working with kids on crosswalks. And I took some pictures, I've got some information that I'll give you, but it was a big program that involved a lot of kids working with the police department to try to make awareness of these crosswalks. They came up with a different kind of cardboard sign. And it was really kind of cool, and it got the kids involved in thinking about the dangers of crosswalks, which, as you know, are probably the most dangerous things that we have around for kids, because they have people come and they want a crosswalk and they don't realize that's one of the most dangerous things you can put up in a city, because people don't pay any attention to a crosswalk. They buzz right through. So I have a lot, I picked up some stuff because I thought it was so cool. And it won a big award.
All right.
So please, community engage with the kids.
Bring it up with the TAC we met last night as well.
Ah, there you go.
And they were, one of the parts of the discussion was about crosswalks and unique designs and different patterns.
All right.
Seems like it's a great way to, get the kids involved. Yeah.
Chief, looks like we have a chat.
You said that and all of a sudden there's a bunch. See, that's wrong. I can't, but
I think it's fine.
Or we can hear it right now.
Yeah.
That's, let me,
It's just
I'm
what-
gonna
You
let
know,
Sarah
like
talk.
this
Yeah.
every day.
All right.
Is that question to the whole board? Oh.
Sarah, if you want to unmute, you should be able to talk rather than chat.
Goodness, somebody's got that. Yeah. Is Sarah trying to talk?
I'm not so sure, but sh-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, on that note, do I have, is there any other thing anybody else wants to say? Okay. Do I have a move to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
The meeting is adjourned.
Yep.
All right.
Good job.
Thank you.
Katie.
I
Well
got
done.
it by the end.